The Denver Nuggets pulled away in the third quarter last night. They won by 15. It was 112-97. They did take a 3-2 lead in the series. Nikola Jokic, once again, just destroyed, four-time Defensive Player of the Year, Rudy Gobert. So now back to Minnesota we go, where the T-Wolves will be favored by 2 in Game 6. But, Rachel, you have stood by these Nuggets from the start of this season. Now how will this series play out?
Look, I do think it's very hard to beat a good team 4 times in a row in the playoffs. So I would not be surprised at all if Minnesota comes out hot, Ant comes out hot, Cat plays well, role players play well at home, and Minnesota takes Game 6, and this goes to a Game 7 that Denver then wins. Yeah. Because, to me, they were just superior last night in every way. And the Wolves play great defense. They still are just an excellent defensive team. They really didn't do a lot wrong. It was just that, man, Denver did everything right. And I know that Mike Conley wasn't there. I just don't think it would have made the difference. I think Nikola Jokic was exceptional. He was 8 of 9 when Rudy Gobert was guarding him. Yep. The spin moves, the shake and bake, the three-pointer. I mean, that last 3 he hit, the step back with over Rudy's outstretched hand, that was a perfect shot. Yep. I mean, the arc on that shot was insane, the way it went up and down. I mean, he had teammates, who pretended they were fainting on the bench. It was incredible. That was a display. That is why I voted for him for MVP again. I understand that you're a Shea backer. I get it. Mm-hmm. But to me, this showed why Jokic deserves the MVP. He's won 3 in 4 years. He is the best player in the game right now, period, the end. And I don't think anyone was beating him last night, and I still am going to pick them to win the title again this year because I just don't see it. I don't see anyone completely beating them in a 7-game series.
You're hating this because you don't love the Denver coach.
No, I don't like Denver Nuggets at all. But you got to tip your hat off to them, no question about it. And when you talk about the Nuggets, and like Rachel was saying, this dude is different. I'm watching him closely. And I'm watching him because the matchup with Rudy Gobert. I got the Defensive Player of the Year. I got the Offensive Player of the Year because it's MVP. He scores. He's not getting MVP because he's a defensive player. Yep. And I'm watching a guy who's a 4-time Defensive Player of the Year, okay? Now, I'm asking Rachel, and I'm going to ask you, Skip, how do you become Defensive Player of the Year? Is it that you are making people change their shot trajectory when they go into the cup? Or are you scaring them because you long and you there? Because clearly, when you matched up against a guy that's your equal size, you get dominated. 8 or 9 shots when you're the primary defender is buckets on your head.
On your head.
I don't understand. I just go back to my sport and I think about it as I said to you guys during the break. Yeah. I can't imagine the top defensive player like a Deion Sanders at the cornerback position going up against the top wide receiver and letting him get 200 yards on him. Not gonna happen, Skip.
Michael did pretty well. Playmaker did pretty well in that one game, but that's greatness against greatness.
That's a different deal. Yeah. That I wouldn't consider Rudy Gobert greatness, but he's supposed to be a defensive player of the year and allow
4 times. That means you're all time, right?
And so if I'm on his team, no matter what you say about the Joker being the Joker, if I'm his teammate, I'm mad as hell because all week long, coming on our flight to Denver, we knew, hey man, you gotta slow this dude down for us to win this game. We know this. We're having these conversations in the locker room and on the flight. That they didn't lose the game because of him. He was a part of the reason they lost the game. And then that man didn't play well. No. Okay, he shot the ball 5 of 15. He just didn't shoot it well. It was almost like it was game 3 for him. Was it 3 or 2? It was like game 2. Game 3. Game 3 for him, where he just didn't participate the way he normally would. The next game, he came out and went for 44. Now, when you go home, you may see that same jolt of energy that we saw in game 4 from him because he knows that, okay, I didn't do my best. I let my teammates down.
All right, go on Gobert.
Okay, so here's the thing about Rudy Gobert being the 4-time Defensive Player of the Year. You can only vote for who is there. I can't vote for Hakeem Olajuwon. He is not available on my ballot, okay? So I can only vote for who is there. And I want to run through the other candidates, okay? Because Rudy Gobert anchored the -- 1 defense in the league. They finished, number 2, but only by the last game of the season. They could easily have finished number 1 in the West. He had great individual stats, and let's talk about the other.
Except for blocks, but you can argue that
there's
he
a category.
alters.
I was going to say there's a category. Every guy has a weakness.
Remember,
That's what I
Wemby,
just said. Like, are you altering the shots?
But here's the thing. So who else is there? Victor Wembanyama, who I voted second, right? He did not have a Defensive Player of the Year start to the season. He didn't. And by the way, his team was 14th. They finished 14th.
I kept saying, I don't get it, but go ahead.
So I think that Victor will win the next however many DPOYs, but if you compared what they did in the regular season, which is what the award is for, it's pretty clear who had the better numbers and whose team finished first in defense and whose team finished top 2 in the conference. And then you look at Bam Adebayo, also on my ballot, right? But his team didn't finish anywhere near the way Minnesota did. And his individual numbers are a little harder to categorize because he's all around, he's sort of an all-around player and does sort of many different things defensively. But there wasn't anyone else available that you would say, oh my God, that is the guy. So the fact that he won the 4th, again, you can only vote for who you can vote for.
So you're telling me you won it by default? Is that kind of what you're saying?
I'm saying that some years the field is stronger than others. And by the way, if you look at the other guys, right, in the conversation for who are the best defenders in the NBA, Anthony Davis, guess what? Nikola Jokic took Anthony Davis to school. Bam Adebayo in the finals, he took him to school. But
it looked different, though, Rachel. Even though he took it, just.
Well, look, I think it's more personal for Jokic. It's like he stole his girlfriend in another life. Though. It's more personal for him against Rudy. But I think that there's no question that this was a Jokic. He was a problem versus this is Rudy's problem. Everybody gets mowed over by this guy.
But it looks different. I don't understand why it looks different to me against Minnesota than it did against Anthony Davis and the Lakers. It just looks different.
You're a 4-time Defensive Player of the Year, and I get it. There's only 2 other guys who have ever done that. It's Hakeem and Ben Wallace, and he is not at the Hakeem or Ben Wallace level. But again, Hakeem Olajuwon and Ben Wallace were not on my voting ballot. So I can only vote for who's there, and I can only vote on the regular season.
I'm not down on you for voting for it.
I get it, but who would you have voted for? Like, if you had a vote, who would you have voted for?
I probably would have voted for him.
Well, there you go. So I get it.
But if you look at pure blocks, not alters, but blocks, Wemby just lapped the field, and Chet was second. And I'm going to stand up for Chet a little bit here because I watched the game back in December. Chet, I'll talk about it a little more in a few minutes here, but Chet played at Jokic in December and blocked 8 shots in that game. And go back and look at the numbers. He outplayed him. He altered a lot of shots. He was a difference maker for a defense that ranked 4th overall. And he was a big reason, maybe the biggest reason, other than obviously Shea closing games, that they won the West. So I could make some case for him. But to your point, he's a baby, and nobody's going to give him any credit. It's his first year playing in the league. And it was Wemby's first year, and he got off to about half the year. He just went and stood out on the 3-point line. I'm like, well, go. You're 7'4", whatever you are. Go stand under the basket because they can't stop you. Okay, so I get all that. But there's always been something missing in Rudy Gobert.
It's just something. I don't know what it is.
He's a fake tough guy. He snarls and growls and grimaces and all that. And you're like, okay, and show me.
Big muscles.
And listen, I will give him and Kat this. Those first 2 games in Denver, Joker was having a hard time, man. He was out of rhythm and out of sync, and he couldn't find it in the lane, and he's flailing. He's just flailing. He's turning the ball over like crazy. They had his number, and then all of a sudden, to your point and your credit, he just said in Game 3, he said, you know what, that's just enough. I've had enough of this guy. I'm going to take this series over, and we're going to do it step by step, possession by possession. And ever since he walked on the floor for Game 3 last Friday night in Minneapolis, it has been over because he just said, I got this. And Jamal's had his moments, but he hasn't been great. It's been Joker, Joker, Joker for 3 straight games. And last night was the epitome of that, even though to Rudy's credit, he made all 7 of his shots last night, so you got to give him that. And he did out-rebound Joker 11-7, so I give him that. But your eye test to both of your points, you just look at it and you just say, it's destruction. It's like, how can you be Defensive Player of the Year if you get destroyed by the MVP, the 3-time MVP?
I'm sitting at home on the couch, and I'm saying that. How could you be Defensive Player of the Year? Yeah, he was 7-7. He hit his points. He had 18 points last night. But at the end, I'm looking at his ability to stop him in the paint. All Joker doing is moving his feet, moving around, boom, pump faking here. He's going for every single move, then he just lays it up. It's like, okay, well, why don't you just let him score?
Yep.
Then the knock back, the step back 3 at the end, I'm just like, but you understand what I'm saying when I look at Defensive Player of the Year? That's supposed to happen.
But that's how good Nikola Jokic is.
I understand that.
Yeah.
He takes the guy who was the front runner for. I mean, it's not as if Gobert won out of the blue. He was the leader for that award the entire season, and Jokic destroyed him. He has won 3 MVPs in the last 4 years. The fact that they handed out the MVP to him right before last night's game, I think, mattered. Right, gave him a little bit of extra.
Oh, I
juice.
didn't miss that.
Yes, and yeah. Well, they didn't show it on. They showed it on NBA TV. They didn't.
Oh, okay, I missed it
on the main broadcast. But the point is, I think that gave him some extra juice. But you cannot argue when you look at the other guys who have won 3 MVPs.
I understand.
He is in all-time greatness company.
No,
and there's no win by default with his MVPs, right? There's no like, man, we just didn't really have anyone else to vote for. This is just an exceptional basketball player. And as we pointed out, it's not even his favorite sport. I mean, it's just incredible.
But it looks pretty to me now. Now I like it.
Well, he's beautiful. He's
A year ago, I hated it. Now I look at it, I'm like,
dude.
Well, it just
it looks
grows
good.
on you.
Yeah.
It just
It's like-
grows on you.
Yeah, I mean, that's
nothing you can do about it. It's like a big-ass kid at an elementary school playing against a bunch of little guys, even though they're the same size as him.
Right.
Yeah.
No, and it's just, I mean, he's the best passing big man the game has ever seen.
Yeah, he had a behind the back last night. I don't even know how he did that.
But it's often to Aaron Gordon because they just love each other. It's almost like Montana to Rice. You know, like he just got this connection where he sees him, eyes in the back of his head.
Dude, I've never seen a center in particular pass the ball behind his back like that.
Yeah.
I love the Aaron Gordon-Jokic relationship because they both talked about each other and how important each other is. And, you know, Aaron Gordon has been asked multiple times, you could have been a bigger star in another team. Why did you decide to come?
He kind of was in Orlando, but nobody noticed, right?
All-star, been on contest, the whole thing. And he's not that in Denver. No. And why are you satisfied with this? Do you ever want to go somewhere else? And he says every time, he said, look, the best player on the planet is the most selfless guy on our team. So how am I supposed to start thinking about my individual stats?
Yeah.
And I just think that if you have guys like that from Jokic all the way on down who buy into the team concept, an organization that has stuck with its coach, even in hard times, which we don't see across the league anymore, an organization that's stuck with players, even after some hard times. So they maintain that chemistry and they get better. It's just, you see it everywhere, and it starts with Jokic, who is one of the best all-time players this game has ever seen.
So if they get out of here against Minnesota and they see Boston, the Nuggets going to win the championship, Rachel?
Well, they still got to play another series in between there. Mm-hmm. I know the schedule is...
Yeah. I don't know why.
Well, why are you rolling your eyes?
No, they do. Rachel's right. I'm like, they do got to play another. They do got to play another.
Wait a second.
His Oklahoma.
I done already jumped ahead.
Just a second. Little known fact. So the Thunder and the Nuggets played 4 times in the regular season, and the Thunder won 3 out of 4.
That's my point.
Interesting.
There's still games to go before
they
they
won
can
3 out of 4
possibly
against
get to
Dallas as well.
And
I forgot there's another series.
Yeah.
I just, for some reason, had already put them in the championship.
I get
Sitting
it.
here listening to you.
You watch them play, and I get it. I do think that next series, the Western Conference Finals, whoever comes out on either side, frankly, will be a tough matchup. Yeah. I still think Minnesota has a very, very, very good chance to win Game 6. But in Game 7 in Denver, I'm picking Nikola Jokic every day and twice on Sunday.
Now let's flip it around. My bone to pick with Mr. Johnson
what I
across
do
from
now?
me. It's just Anthony Edwards and the Jordan comparisons. I just said you just
it's
can't.
Early
I know,
Jordan.
It's not fair.
Jordan at the end of his career.
It's not fair. It's not fair. So I've been sarcastically calling him young Jordan. So he's young Jordan. Okay, we get it. And then last night, I sat back at the end of this game and I thought, man, I'm so disappointed in him because he did not walk his talk. Because he talked to Jamal, talked him all the way off the floor the other night, clapping. And then he said after the game, I told his ass, blah, 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 blah. Okay. that's pretty disrespectful when you tell the media, I told his ass that.
Yeah.
Okay. If you can back that up at Denver, you got me, man. And he didn't, for whatever reason. And he's still just a kid.
5 of
just
15,
a kid.
1 of 5 from 3, didn't play well.
He just didn't play well. And at the end of the night, I thought, you know what? If I weren't thinking of him as young Jordan, I wouldn't even care. I'd say it's just another game. He's in his 4th year. He'll figure this back out. It's just hard when you put that evil on him, as they said about Ricky Bobby and Talladega. Well, it's like too much.
That is an amazing reference.
Thank you.
I'm so happy.
You know that
right
movie?
Now. Of course.
Yes,
I'm so happy you just said that.
You don't know Talladega Nights.
I know it, but I didn't.
That is an incredible reference.
It's not part of my rotation.
Look, Mike Conley being out is
Michael
part
Clark
of what.
Duncan is really great.
Well, it's not part of my rotation.
Okay, all right. You should check it out.
Mike Conley being out is part of what happened to Ant last night. It allows Denver to double more.
They doubled him literally every time he touched the ball.
It was the
every
first
time he touched the ball and put the ball on the ground.
Right?
Okay, what do you think they did to young Jordan?
That's
fine,
okay,
but don't do this, Skip.
But the Pistons won those games.
Crazy.
They did, but then Sam Smith wrote a whole book about the Jordan rules, right?
right?
It took the Jordan rules to stop him.
Okay, but
because they were scared to death of him, and I'm not sure the Nuggets are scared to death of Ant-Man.
It's not the same. First of all, it's not the same era. They don't play it nearly as aggressive, not even close to aggressive. They're going to double Michael, and they're going to knock him down. They're going to double Ant and allow him. They're going to double Ant.